Good morning. Welcome to this edition of The Breakfast Club. My name is Toya Singh. It's a Tuesday morning and we're actually going to take you through a particularly important decision, maybe one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make in your life. How to choose your education institution, especially if you want to stay within India. So if you're going to college in India, how do you decide the right place for you? Who and how do you make those decisions? We've got a panel of experts to tell you everything there is that you need to know. We're also taking you through a particularly important interview. We're going to walk you through everything you need to know about mosquitoes. It's quite a diverse day today. Let's walk you through all the headlines. So right on top, how you can ace the college decision, right from cutoffs to the careers that you need to keep in mind right after while you're making your campus choice, from admission to placements, scholarships to specializations, how you can navigate India's college maze and what you need to do differently. That's what we're going to be focusing on today's episode. And in line with the horrifying incidents we saw take place in Kolkata, the protests that we're seeing take place across the country, women, doctors coming out and demanding more when it comes to safety, we are amplifying this whole week different voices, the voices of authors, activists, lawyers, just to understand what they think needs to change. And today on the show, we have the lawyer Neha Nagpal's vision for India. We'll be talking to her about how she believes there needs to be just a complete stop to victim blaming in the way we talk about each of these incidents. And this is a very interesting one. World Mosquito Day 2024. You've come to see them everywhere. None of us are strangers to mosquitoes. But what do we need to know about them? How do we keep ourselves safe? And what's the interesting story behind World Mosquito Day? It has an unusual India connection that we'll be talking about. And lastly, on the show, we love to bring you the overdrive verdict, the Mahindra Thar, and you can see it right from the body language of the people standing by the car. It's a car that makes you feel cooler. But what about the changes that have just taken place? The changes to the doors, the changes to everything inside. We'll bring you all of it. Is it the car that is the same as the old Thar in everything it brings up in you? That's the overdrive final verdict. This morning on the show, we're starting off by diving into a topic that's got every student, and let's be entirely honest, their parents too, on the edge of their seats, picking the perfect college in just a few months. Now, we all know that college isn't just about books and grades and the occasional late night study session. It's about knowing where your academic dreams can take flight. Now, we're in the month of August. We're a few months away still from students needing to make those bigger decisions. But how do we navigate the dizzying maze of cutoffs, scholarships, placements, and the expectations that could make even the calmest among us break into a sweat? Well, whether you're aiming for an Ivy League within India or you're just trying to figure out if you can survive hostel food, we've got the experts to guide you right here on the show. Okay, let's go over first to our guest. Zubin Mehrotra is with us live this morning to tell us everything there is to know. And I just want to give you a little context to him. Zubin, just give us a sec. I want to tell our audiences a little bit more about everything you bring with you as you come and join us today. You're a career counselor. You guide students every day on not just the college decision, but colleges with the future career in mind. And Zubin, you give audiences, or rather young students and their families, guidance in not just Indian colleges, colleges abroad. So you bring that larger context too. Let's come to you with our first question, Zubin. In India, one of the ways in which we navigate the question of which college to go to is you look at, okay, what do I want to study? You look at what the top ranked college is for it. You just look at the ranking list and then you go ahead and perhaps make your decision, maybe looking at other things like faculty, career placements, etc. Do you think there needs to be a rethink in how we prioritize our decision making there?
Good morning, Toya. It's a big question. I think there needs to be a complete overhaul in even how colleges select students. But let's keep ourselves away from that. You see, rankings is a proxy. Colleges are spread across the country, students applying from them from all over. So ideally, yes, you should try and visit a college if you can, see what the infrastructure is like, go talk to a bunch of students across different years, interact with faculty, see what get firsthand some inputs, maybe sit in on a class. But that's not, you may be able to do it for one or two, if at all, which are there in your city, but certainly not if they're spread all over the country, say like engineering colleges are, or medical colleges are, or management colleges are, etc., etc. So therefore, then rankings acts as a quick thumb rule proxy. But again, there are a number of different rankings that happen. So how do you navigate that? I would suggest look at the trends of the last 3 years. See, has somebody suddenly in 1 year, shot up the rankings and then has dropped out altogether? Then that's something which is to be investigated very thoroughly. If there is a consistent track record, consistent performance, then those are all tick marks. We are now in the age where you can connect with anyone, anywhere, right? Through our parents, students and students' parents' social media and social networks. So I'm sure somebody or the other knows somebody or the other who probably has studied very recently or is currently studying at your institute of interest. A WhatsApp call is so easy today to do. So first-hand feedback, nothing beats that. Because they'll tell you, everything about how the food is. Those are secondary things. But when you're selecting because the rankings, please understand, is an overall aggregate. So even if I'm looking at engineering or I'm looking at, regular humanities or management courses or a BSc kind of a course, the ranking does not give me a specific ranking that for BSc physics, this is the ranking for that college. Whereas for BSc electronics, this is what the ranking is. So the ranking is overall, you want to know for the subjects that you're going to be applying for or studying, how is the faculty, how are the placements, certain courses require labs and other infrastructure to help you for that course. How is that actually? So a lot of first-hand, as much as you can, legwork, that really helps. And another quick point, all colleges are mandated now to publish their placement record. So they cannot make tall claims, which they perhaps could in an ad where they may combine placements of many years and make it appear as if it is for just the last or the most recent year. There is a placement record that they have to publish on their website. There are also other education or career-related sites which do their own ranking. There is an NIRF ranking. There are specific, so engineering colleges have I believe it's DataQuest or somebody who has a ranking. So consult a bunch of these, combine the results and look at the trends for several years and of course do your own legwork.
Subin, can I ask you, because you speak to parents too, in your experience, what's the one thing you see Indian parents do a lot of that you wish they almost didn't? So in the process in which they are guiding their students, what's something you wish they did slightly differently?
Good question. I think trust their children more. Trust their children's ability to make the right call. And whatever be that decision, to be able to make good of it and go forward with it. Because please understand, especially at the undergrad level, while of course it is a big decision and it seems like a very big decision because it's the first major decision that you're taking, it's one of many steps and decisions that you will take. In many cases, your undergraduate degree is essentially just a foundation level. It's your postgraduate and thereafter, which actually is your springboard into a career, into a job. Often you can entirely change directions and streams after your undergraduate program. So it's not as make or break. So I think these students who are passing out from school have enough pressure, a mountain of pressure on their shoulders as is. Let's not put that pressure that they only need to go into A, B or C or the top 3, 5 that we hear of. There are a number of now very, very good institutions, a large number, both in the private and the public universities and colleges. Explore those. I give this example that as parents, our operating system is pre-Android, right? The students are on the latest operating system. We need to educate ourselves. So as parents, we need to find out, the students don't have the time to do a lot of research and legwork. As parents, we should do that and then distill that without our biases to our children.
Can you also tell us, because we've almost given advice now to the parents, and largely, Zubir, it's going to be parents who are watching this right now. But I still want to ask, for the kids who may be watching, for those of us who have kids in our lives who are 15 years old, 14 years old, if I could almost ask you to chart out 1 year for the students. So the final year of the students, the final 2 years of their schooling life, 15 and 16. If I could ask you to chart out how they go about the process of exploring colleges. Because right in the beginning you said, try to make those campus visits, try to get in contact with people on WhatsApp. But I'm saying if you have 1 year to chart out how you would like a student to spend their time in the year before they decide where to go. So how they would go about it. What would you say? What would the step-by-step be there?
In the year just preceding, so if you're suppose somebody who's in class 12, you probably don't have that much bandwidth, especially if you're a science student, because you're going to be preparing for your competitive entrance exams, whether that's for engineering or for medicine. So actually, it's your grade 11th year, which is ideally suited to do some of this legwork. Similarly, whereas if you're a commerce stream or a humanities stream student, you do have a little bit more time, right? Because a lot of these subjects may be new to you the first time that you're studying things like accountancy or business studies or psychology, sociology, etc. So, you need about 6 odd months to try and get a little bit of a taste and a handle on the subject, and is it something that you enjoy and would like to explore? And on that basis, then go and start doing this research process. But if gun to head, if you're a class 12 student, what you would be doing, I would say you'd concentrate your research till your summer holidays, because that's still time till which you have a little bit more, relatively more relaxed time. You will be slogging away. You'll be doing your preparation for, whether it's law, whether it's engineering, whether medicine, whether it's fashion or design. Those are also extremely competitive to get into, or you're doing your preparation for entrance into undergraduate management programs. Do remember, Toya, that now even getting into central universities or a Delhi university is also based on an entrance exam over and above your class 12 board. So that's the CUET. So your class 12 boards, in fact, now has very, very little relevance. And it's how you perform on an entrance exam, whether for a professional course or for a generalized university, which will determine your admission into that program. So you have to also be very mindful of that and start doing some of that preparation, because say the CUET, you may at most have a month and a half if things go as planned after your boards end. It will be based on the subjects that you have chosen in your boards, but a completely different pattern, which is an objective style pattern, multiple choice questions. So it requires a different kind of orientation and practice and speed.
Okay, and Zubin, can I just ask you, there's an increasing trend that we're seeing right now in colleges and schools where you'll have students pick up programming, coding, sometimes on the side of actually going into college. You'll have students investing in cryptocurrency, in different kinds of stock markets. All of that has started really early. Students are essentially upskilling themselves, and I'm also observing a trend of students not then completing their 4 years, deciding that they want to go a different path. Sometimes you have upset parents because of that. What's your thought on that entire trend?
So completing your undergraduation, to my mind, is an absolute bare minimum. I mean, while we all, the legends become of the Mark Zuckerbergs and other dropouts from colleges who have gone and made it big, but, the chances of those are 1 in a billion.
Okay.
Even if you have that great idea for entrepreneurship, you also need expertise, you need experience, you need team. Why is somebody going to today in a VC-funded entrepreneurial environment trust you? Ideas are cheap. Execution is what matters, right? So even the youngsters who set up Zepto, these are people who have completed their education, gone to good institutions, formed connections, because college teaches you. It teaches you about dealing with all kinds of crises, all kinds of interpersonal issues. And believe me, the success or failure of an enterprise often is interpersonal and not often technological or the idea of funding. So those are great learnings for you. Crypto, etc. I don't think anyone really knows that much to be investing. If you're investing, you're basically gambling. But okay, you want to put some of your pocket money into it and burn your fingers, and the great way to learn, sure. But the point that you came about on coding and a larger point to things like AI, and every conversation seems to be going around there. I think the broader message there is that while you don't have to be the person who creates AI tools, what you must be very aware of is how can you leverage or make use of AI tools in the work that you do. So you could be somebody who's learning to be a chef, or learning to be a designer, or learning to be a doctor. Please keep your eyes and ears open, and in the time available, dabble in the tools today available, which will be, say, on a scale of 1 to 10 at 0.05. But 10 years later, it'll be one of the key tools that you'll use in your career. So don't be a technophile. Don't be afraid of technology. There's all this talk about technology taking away those jobs. Deal with it when we come to it. But right now, make technology your friend.
Okay. Zubin, thank you. That's incredible advice. It's all very sensible, I must say. But I do love that you are
saying... And it's much easier when you are not in the midst of it. Let me share that as well.
All right. Thank you so much for taking out the time, Zubin. Thanks for joining us early in the morning and bringing us that prepper. Okay, let's take you, our audiences, now from Zubin, who kind of laid a foundation out for us. He gave us the broad basics that you need to know while going about the college discussion, to someone who's a little bit more specialized. He's someone who's no stranger to the high stakes of business education in particular, because we talked a little bit right now about what it takes to make it in the real big bad world, the business world, how much your undergraduate actually matters. We wanted to bring the other side of this, also bring in business education. We have Dr. Himadri Das with us. He's the Director General of IMI in New Delhi. He's here to break down the nitty-gritty of everything it takes in the MBA world too, the great business school decisions that you're going to need to make after, and how much you need to keep an eye on all of that when you're in undergraduate. Let's go over to Himadri to understand more. Sir, thank you for joining us here on the show. Sir, question one. What should students look for when they're choosing a business school in the country? Because again, we talked a little bit about the importance of ranking and how that features into your undergraduate decision. Here in the MBA decision, it feels like the one thing you're looking at. You just look at the rankings of the different business schools across the entire country. How much do you think that should feature versus curriculum, prestige, the location of the campus, for example? How do you think all of it needs to play in?
I would suggest students look at 5 factors, and I'm going to specify them in no particular order. One would be the amount of industry engagement. The more there is industry engagement with a B school, the better it is, because it ensures that the students get industry relevant inputs. Number 2 would be the quality of faculty. And by quality of faculty, I mean the pedigree of faculty. What kind of schools do they have their PhDs from, their masters from, their bachelors from? Because I strongly believe that high pedigree faculty will ensure extremely high quality learning outcomes for the students in the classroom. Number 3 would be curriculum. The curriculum has to have a very good balance between theoretical fundamentals and concepts and industry applications. Just focusing on theoretical concepts without the industry applications makes the students redundant as far as recruiters is concerned. So this balance and a very easy and clean flow from understanding the concepts to applying them for industry applications is very, very important. Number 4 would be the location of the school. Especially for a business school, I believe it's extremely important for the business school to be located in a corporate hub. Then the students get much more exposure in terms of networking opportunities with industry, going and seeking out live projects. A lot of student-run events happen on business schools, so they can go and invite industry executives to come into a panel discussion, keynote speaker, this, that. So it also helps them build their own network. So this is something they cannot do if the business school is in the hinterland. So corporate hub as a location is a huge plus. And number 5 would be the age of the business school. The older the business school, the better it is, because then you'll have a larger number of very senior and influential alumni, which a young business school won't. And finally, the number of senior and influential alumni helps build the brand of the business school in the industry. and they can influence companies, not only theirs but others, to recruit students from that school because they're well known, in their sector and beyond their companies. So these 5 things, I believe, are what a student should look for while selecting a B school.
Okay, so these are all very practical tips. Just tell us, sir, how do business schools themselves, because when you're in a business school, one of your main priorities at school every day is to also get practical industry exposure, the internships that you're getting, the networking opportunities. How do you balance that with the academics? Because it always feels like there's a tension between both of those priorities for a student.
See, the trick is, from a business school perspective, how much do you involve industry executives in design of curriculum, and how much do you involve them in delivery of curriculum? So a industry-focused business school will revise their curriculum about once every 2 years, or at the most once every 3 years. And rather than the faculty from other places sitting and breaking their heads over it, they need to invite senior industry practitioners to help them design the curriculum. So then that ensures the curriculum is industry relevant and contemporary, and things are moving very, very fast these days. The next part is just designing the curriculum, in a co-created way with industry is not enough. How the curriculum is delivered is also very important. So it is imperative that there is significant industry executive presence in the classroom. Not teaching full courses necessarily, because senior executives don't have the time. But if faculty teaches, let's say, the theoretical underpinnings, and then they bring in for special sessions, industry executives to come and talk about applications. So that's the way to kind of balance the theoretical fundamentals and the industry applications and relevance.
Sure. Can you tell us, Mr. Das, what trends are we seeing right now in MBA specializations? So what are areas that might be becoming increasingly relevant in the job market today, but also in the future job market?
See, the traditional specializations will remain relevant. They are marketing, finance, operations, information technology, or technology in general, human resources. But I see, 2 other specializations coming in which are becoming extremely, extremely relevant. One of them is data analytics, which is a very, very important part of decision making. And business school students who have a data analytics specialization, they are in huge demand, because all companies in all sectors are sitting on oceans of data, and they want to be able to derive actionable insights from that, which will help them, grow the business, become more competitive, increase margins, what have you. So that is one specialization which I see is taking off and is in big demand. Another specialization is overlay of technology on traditional specializations. So, for example, blockchain. Blockchains have become very, very important in supply chains for tracking supply chains in a very, very accurate way. So just traditional supply chain management is no longer that useful. But if you have applications of blockchain in supply chain, it's very useful. In a traditional finance specialization, fintech, which is again an overlay of technology, is becoming very useful. So these might appear to be old specializations, but the internal guts of the specialization have to be redone, where these things are there. I gave you just 2 examples of blockchain in supply chain in an operation specialization and fintech in a finance specialization. There could be many more, but I think you would get the drift.
Can you also discuss with us a little bit about the impact of global partnerships, exchange programs on the quality of education at a business school?
See, the way I see it is, exchange programs and partnerships are very important to give students an exposure to other cultures, help them network with global students, and have that exposure to how things are done in a different country. I don't think the curriculum input is that important, because curriculum are typically global now. A good Indian B school would have a curriculum which is not very, very different from a good international B school. But what you get when you go on an exchange program is that exposure, the networking, the cultural immersion, and all of these become very important when you're charting out a global career. But there are a couple of more things I would like to point out on the global front beyond exchange programs. From a business school perspective, business schools which have global accreditations And there are three large accreditation bodies in the business school world today, global. There is AMBA from the UK, there is AACSB from the US, and there is EQUIS from the European Union. These benchmark academic processes, academic learning outcomes, and a variety of things which are very academic quality metrics with the best of class across the world.
Can you also tell us, and this is a bit of a tricky one, how crucial is networking during business school? I mean, we all know it's crucial, so that's not a question. But how do you balance the networking, again, with the studying that you're expected to do every single day? How do you think students should prioritize that?
I think if a business school student has the advantage of being in a school which has strong industry engagement, because of its culture as well as its location, they should make full advantage of it. And I would not say this is at the cost of learning outcomes in the classroom. I think this is a very important, supplemental addition to what happens in the classroom. This sharpens them in terms of their attractiveness in the corporate world, because then they can, showcase that, they not only have the classroom inputs. See, the networking is not just knowing people. The networking also gives you certain learnings which may be intangible. The more people you talk to in industry, there are certain things you pick up. They may not always be curriculum centric. They could be other things. They could be soft skills. They could be how to look at a problem. They could be how to, look at something that is ambiguous and, figure out a way to start at least breaking it down. So networking is not just how many people you know on LinkedIn. Networking is actually spending a little bit of time with people that you get exposed to because they come to campus for a panel discussion, or they come to campus for a keynote speech, or you reach out to them because you are part of some committee or student club and you get them to campus for other reasons. So I think that is something that students should spend as much time as they can on, because that will help them immensely in terms of what they bring to the table. And I'll again reiterate, it's not just about how many people you're connected to on LinkedIn, but what did you actually get out of them, even if you met them for 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Dr. Das, thank you for joining us. Okay, so we brought you, our audiences, first an intro into all the decisions you need to keep in mind when either your student or you, if you are the student, are deciding how to go about the college decision process right here in India. Then we brought you a more specialized take, because especially if you're looking at business schools, there's actually a bunch of different things you need to take into consideration. We thought and we hope that that provided you with some kind of basic guide. Let's take you now to something entirely different. Stories that are taking place right here in India and across the world. We'll start with the Democratic Republic of Congo that is getting its first Mpox vaccine doses with the help of both Japan and the US. Now, their arrival will address the vaccine access gap. There's a huge gap right now between African countries and Europe and the US during the 2022 outbreak. We first saw this gap. Take a look.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo hopes to receive its first doses of an Mpox vaccine next week, following promises from Japan and the United States to help fight its outbreak. That's according to Congolese Health Minister Samuel Roger Kamba Malamba on Monday.
I hope that the vaccines will arrive next week. It's really a whole logistics chain, from our acceptance first, and then a few administrative procedures before shipment. But our strategic vaccination response plan is already ready. We're just waiting for the vaccines to arrive.
Earlier on Monday, Japan's Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare said in an email statement to Reuters that it was preparing to provide Congo with Mpox vaccines and needles in cooperation with the World Health Organization and other partners. Their arrival would help address a huge inequity that left African countries with no access to the 2 shots used in a 2022 outbreak, while the vaccines were widely available in Europe and the US. Global vaccine group Gavi said last week it had up to $500 million to spend on getting shots to impacted countries. The DRC's health minister said, quote, "Gavi has offered to make the vaccines available and we agreed." The World Health Organization declared Mpox a global public health emergency last week for the second time in 2 years, as new variant Clade 1b spread rapidly in Africa. The DRC has 16,700 recorded cases and over 570 deaths, the health minister said.
We're taking you to something entirely different now. A rare astronomical event was observed in Seoul on Monday where a supermoon, that's what you're looking at on your screens, and a blue moon coincided. A supermoon basically occurs when the moon is at its closest point to Earth in its orbit. It makes it appear significantly larger and brighter in the night sky. This event marks the first of 4 consecutive supermoons that are expected this year, according to NASA. And a Saudi gamer has set a record connecting over 400 consoles to a TV. You can see it right there. Ibrahim Ali Nasser is a gamer from Saudi Arabia with a penchant for retro consoles. He's connected, as we said, 400 of them to a single TV in his approximately 30 feet by 16 feet gaming room. So it is relatively small but filled with consoles. Okay, we're taking you now to a short break. But on the other side of the break, what are we going to be taking a look at? TVC once again keeps its focus on different activists, lawyers who are making a difference after everything we saw play out in Kolkata. The need to stop victim blaming. We'll have a longer discussion after the break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network. I am the future that was born 100 years ago. I am the purpose that emerged with India's independence to be a force for business that makes doing good our business. Towards an independence where knowledge sets us free. To think big and achieve bigger. To take India to the world and the world to India. Creating pathways of self-reliance. To stand for progress, the planet and the people. Towards a future made perfect. And be a force creating abundance. Because independence is not a moment in history. It's a never-ending path to prosperity. Aditya Birla Group, a force for good.
Hope, love. All right, now I want to see this country progress.
And what does she mean for you?
I have 14 grandchildren, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let them grow up in a country that they have less rights than I did.
I grew up in the 70s. We had no rights. We were less than. We were treated differently. And to see a woman like her, who is not only a woman of color of different nationalities, rise above all the stuff that I had to go through, it's amazing.
don't know. It's I have hope for I have a ton of student loan debt from law school, and it's just I don't know if I'll ever pay that off. And it's nice to know that if Harris wins, that she would hopefully look out for me, and I know Trump wouldn't. So it's nice to know that my interest and my ability to move upwards in society and as a professional and as a person, hopefully will be more secure with Harris.
Welcome back. Let's take you now to a topic that can sometimes be a real buzzkill. Today is World Mosquito Day. It's a day to spread awareness about that pesky little vampire you can see on your screens. Let's tell you a little bit about the history here. We'll take you back to 1897 when on this very day, a British doctor who you can see on your screens right now, he was named Sir Ronald Ross. He identified the malaria parasite in the stomach of a female mosquito. And why that's so important is because it's the first evidence that it was actually mosquitoes that were transmitting malaria among humans. And he made that discovery in a small little laboratory right here in India in Secunderabad. So it's actually right here in India that this huge discovery was made. Now you fast forward to 2024 and it turns out that these little critters are sucking out the life of the party. The World Mosquito Program, which tracks the spread of diseases born from them, says that 2024 was actually the worst year for dengue cases on record. There have been more than 11 million cases reported across 80 countries. In India, we warn you about dengue, chikungunya every single year, particularly because if you live in urban areas, you've seen a bulk of the cases. So most of you we know are tuning in from Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, urban cities, and it's actually urban cities that saw 68% of all cases last year. The peak season for something like dengue is actually September, October, but this year, even before the peak, India is seeing a huge rise. So till June, just from Jan to June, the number of cases we recorded was 75% higher than the exact same time period last year. We did this so we could give you a little bit of a prepper as you go about your day to day. Give a little extra thought to mosquito repellent and nets. These tiny terrors may be small, but their impact, as you maybe already know, is outsized. Okay, we're done showing you mosquitoes on your screen. Let's take you now to something entirely different. The next story is one we've wanted to highlight over the last few days. After the incidents we saw play out in Kolkata more than a week ago and the protests that we've seen play out since. So we're talking about the rape and murder of a young doctor and the protests we've seen play out not just by doctors, by ordinary people in cities like Delhi, like Bangalore, like Chennai, even though the incident itself took place in Kolkata. We here on The Breakfast Club thought it's important to highlight the voices of all of those who are going out of the way to make a difference in this conversation. India is a country where the resources that have been kept to make change sometimes go underutilized, where we sometimes blame victims instead of holding the perpetrators truly accountable, and where sometimes legal systems face overwhelming bottlenecks. So how can we ensure justice? How can we make sure equality prevails? Yesterday, we brought you one conversation. Today, we're going to bring you another. We're going to keep spotlighting conversations like this. Yesterday, we talked about a mother who invented an app to make the country safer. It's an app where you can actually rate the safety ratings of a place. Today, we're bringing you Neha Nagpal. She's a partner at NM Law Chambers. She's a lawyer who brings a ton of expertise with her, and she's going to tell us how you can institute real change in the country, make change happen at a fundamental level with education, with values, and with more. Let's speak to her. Let's go over to her to understand everything there is to know. Neha, good morning. Thank you for joining us here on the show. Neha, can you tell us, just a broad question for you first. How do you think we can make India safer for our women? It's a wide question, but what do you think is the single most important change that needs to happen first?
I think education. I think a sense of you don't start with saying, oh, what a woman did is wrong. That's the fault theory. One starts with really what is the root cause, understanding the root cause, the aggression, the anger. It's all coming from a place of definitely a lack of frustration with lack of employment, lack of social disparity, all of that. But the minute somebody is an evolved, educated soul, is empowered to build a life for himself, that anger, that frustration will dissipate. If there is a culture where we are taught or where we teach our boys as young as 2, 3, 4, 5, that you have to honor and respect a woman. You have to honor and respect personal space of a woman, of a girl. I think that's where we start.
Neha, this time the conversation has very much been around that. The fact that we need to ask our men to educate themselves, to have conversations with the other men around them. The change starts there. But we want to ask you, when it comes to the administrative side, it's not as if the funds to make the change don't exist. In 2022, you have research that found that 30% of the Nirbhaya fund remains unused till date. And this is the kind of money you could put into efforts like the one you're talking about, which is educating people. I just want to ask you, where is the issue, according to you, in our system?
That's also with the whole MPLAD, MP, funds that they get. How much gets used and consumed? And the fact is that India is a country, the more you put in, the more you will need to put in. There is a direction that's missing. There's a roadmap that's missing clearly somewhere. And maybe we need to have, in any sort of public transport, we can have CCTVs. We can have CCTVs on roads for over 1.5 million security cameras in 15 cities. So on average, 11 cameras per 1,000 people. That is still very low. So public places, public transport, we need to amp up our CCTV game or police, patrolling game. That is one part of it. So the funds can definitely be used for that. The other part is tightening the noose and putting that money to make sure, and I agree with what Prime Minister Modi said at his Independence Day speech, the only way this will stop, or the numbers will, or these horrific acts will not be repeated, is if the judicial delivery does not take years. It is as fast and seamless as possible. That there is the mindset that one can get away with it, that one can, the judicial system will deliver, has to come in. So that becomes a deterrent for any such thought before it becomes into action.
Neha, can you tell us, so much of the onus as an Indian woman still falls on us. As a woman, you're always thinking when you leave the house, am I covered enough? Family members tell you to cover up before you leave the house. So the blame is still with us. When do you think the onus will shift?
That when we don't have an answer to, what we can start doing on our part as a responsible, educated society is start creating more awareness, start having a dialogue where merely because an incident happens with a woman, it's not a woman's fault. Because if a woman would not cry foul and say, oh, I've been raped, if it was consensual. It is as a society, we need to hold ourselves responsible. Where is the mainstreaming of a dialogue that, hang on, not only is the rape victim definitely needs help. Look at what they go through in terms of physically, emotionally, they're stigmatized. But it is also that the accused also needs help and therapy. Where are we mainstreaming that dialogue? Nobody's mainstreaming that dialogue. We need to have more of this conversation, and then maybe the narrative will shift that you can't just blame a woman.
Neha, part of the reason we wanted to hear from you was your legal expertise. In terms of legal changes, what do you think need to happen? What's the biggest change that needs to happen, perhaps?
So see, in terms of laws, I think we have robust laws. Even the new BNSS and BNS is as robust as it can get in favor of women. The whole dialogue of women equality is as mainstream as it gets. And therefore, there is a surge and a rise of women across even, the armed forces, in the legal fraternity, as chairmans of banks, chairpersons of banks, as chairpersons of corporates, as judges. I mean, India is poised to now have the first woman Chief Justice in 27. In different walks of life, you are seeing way more opportunity being given to women, women being preferred in leadership roles also. So that's not the problem. Opportunity for women or the laws in favor of the women. The problem lies in the implementation. We need a more robust system. India today has one of the weakest ratio of per 1,000 population to a judge. So till that bottleneck is not released, is not managed, we will keep struggling. Therefore, there needs to be more expenditure towards ramping up courts, towards digitalization of court records, towards digitalization of even the trial process. That's the only time we will start seeing a real difference.
Neha, let me ask you lastly, one of the big questions we've talked a lot about in this movement is how do you prevent it from dying down? There's a case that happens every few years, people get very angry and then it almost leaves mainstream discussion. How do we keep the momentum going?
So see, I think it's wrong to say that the momentum dies down. It is not mainstreamed. There are activists, there are people who are constantly working at the back end. There are NGOs that work for rape and acid attack victim survivors. They are constantly doing their job. There are, there is the judicial system that is also working, hearing cases, passing decisions, but are those mainstreamed? The fact is that's not mainstream. Right. And that is exactly what Prime Minister Modi also said at his speech on Republic Day, at Independence Day at Red Fort. That till it is not mainstream that there is a punishment, there is a rigorous punishment that has been given out to an accused for such a heinous crime, that fear will not get inculcated. That is, if you have, on an average basis, if you have 10 sort of incidents of rape that we read about per week, there'll be only 2 convictions. That also, yes, of course, but what is mainstreamed is that incident. But this conviction will probably be somewhere in page 2 or 3.
Okay, thank you, Neha, for providing us with your perspective, for joining us this morning on the show. Let's take you, our audiences, now to something slightly different, though conversations like this are going to continue through the entire week. Let's take you to something, as we said, entirely different and one that's related to the roads. Mahindra and Mahindra have just introduced the Thar Roxx in the Indian market with prices starting at 12.99 lakhs ex-showroom. Now, this is obviously a new version of the Thar, but what are the changes that this SUV brings with it? Take a look. This is the Overdrive verdict.
Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Rohit Paratkar and this is the much-awaited Mahindra Thar Roxx. This is essentially the Fido version of the Thar. So let's begin with the side profile, of course. 2 doors, we know that's the extra bit. These are the additional doors and this is how the door opens. So the door handle is going to be right here. Here's a quick view at the kind of space that you get inside the car. What is your height, sir?
My height is 5'9".
He's 5'9". That's the kind of headroom that you get. You see that massive panoramic sunroof back there. LED lighting there. That's the kind of knee room that you get, foot space and the overall spacing right there. The seats have been scooped out, so that maximizes space for sure. Then you also have these door pockets. You also have this little phone holder right here, and you can also recline. The 4x4 badging should tell you that there is, of course, the 4x4 off-road capability, but the base variants are going to be rear-wheel driven only. The petrol starts at 12.99 lakh rupees. The diesel starts at 13.99 lakh rupees. Tires are going to be the Wanderers, the MRF Wanderers that you get stock on this. These are all terrain tires, not highway tires or anything. The profile is going to be a 255/60 R19, 19-inch rims, diamond cut rims. Like I told you, let me remind you again, this is going to be the top end variant. Here's a look at the pillar mounted or door handles that you get, and let me know your thoughts on this. So this still sounds plastic to me. I don't think this is metal, but let's wait till tomorrow. I think this is metal, this isn't. So I think we'll need to get a clarification on that. This is probably a cladding on top. But anyway, that's the controversial C pillar that you get. Here's some detailing. You get the Thar 5-door motif on there, and then you get the camel motif right here. And it also reflects quite nicely on, it casts a shadow quite nicely on the seat. So that's how tailgate. So it's a two-piece tailgate again. So this is how it's going to open for you. And that's the windshield on top. You get the wash and wipe, and then you also get the defog. You don't have to sheet with me yet. You're going to get Harman Kardon speakers, branded audio, and that's also in your boot. No roof mounted speakers here like the Thar 2-door. You get a panoramic sunroof inside. You speak, and this is more luxury oriented. Let me know what your thoughts are about the colors, especially when you want to go off the road. Some exposed cabling right here shouldn't be much of a worry, I guess. You also get this strut for opening, the two struts rather, for opening this. You're going to get a high stop lamp right there. LED tail light. On is a full-size pair again. Of course, they wouldn't want to mess with that look. An exposed lock right here. This is the automatic badging because this is the automatic variant that we see right here. Now, let's take a look at front box. I'm going to get this screen right in the center, and then you also get the digital driver's the Thar 2-door. Now let's just hop over to the other side again. Quite a lot of crowd already in here. So that's your instrumentation, fully digital instrumentation, full color again. That's going to be your tachometer, gear position indicator, speedometer, and the multi-input display right. Console, this is what your switchgear is going to look like. Again, very similar to what we've seen in the Thar 2-door. USB-A, USB-C ports right there, wireless charger right beneath that. Then the low, was the neutral right in the bit right in between that. You get two cup holders right here, and then you get a space for your key and also the electronic parking brake and auto hold. These are going to prevent rest. Be fine. Only one side is adjustable. The driver side is, the passenger side isn't, but little cubby hole right behind that. Electronically controlled. Finally, the big grab handles to get inside the car. Thanks again there.
destination for investing and business insights. Let's take a look first at markets. GIFT Nifty indicating a positive start for Indian equities. Asian markets opened in the green this morning following positive from markets. Crude oil prices slipped as positive talks on Gaza and the entire war with Israel eased worries on supply disruption. This year's heat wave made life cool for companies in just one quarter. Given the under-penetration of this entire category, the headroom for growth is huge. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's air conditioner firms and also various other actionable insights on markets. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights you'll ever need. It's brought to you by Money Control. And with that, we're drawing our show to a close. Thank you for staying with us for this whole show. We'll see you tomorrow with more.
Hope, love. All right, now I want to see this country progress.
And what does she mean for you?
I have 14 grandchildren, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let them grow up in a country that they have less rights than I did.
I grew up in the 70s. We had no rights. We were less than. We were treated differently. And to see a woman like her, who is not only a woman of color of different nationalities, rise above all the stuff that I had to go through, it's amazing.
I don't know. I have hope for I have a ton of student loan debt from law school, and that off. And it's nice to know that if Harris wins, that she would hopefully look out for me, and I know Trump wouldn't. So it's nice to know that my interest and my ability to move upwards in society and as a professional and as a person, hopefully will be more secure with Harris.
I think women have had enough. We've been pushed around by the patriarchy for so long, and we're seeing it again. They took away Roe v. Wade, which I think a lot of women are mad at. I think we're mad at Project 2025. I think Kamala is just a breath of fresh air in the yuckiness of what we see from the other side so much. All the hate, the division, who...
Good morning and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Grihatul Siddiqui. We begin with our top focus story that continues to be coming out of Kolkata in West Bengal. While the probe over RG car horror continues to gain momentum, now the Supreme Court is all set to begin its hearing over the matter today. On the other hand, explosive details continue to emerge in the matter. After parents of the victim allege hastened cremation of their daughter, the crematorium staff, in an exclusive conversation with CNN News 18, has confirmed parents' allegations. They said that before the victim's body came for cremation, 2 more bodies were already lined up. The police insisted, however, on quick cremation, citing law and order situation. The parents of the victim had also alleged that the police somehow wanted to get rid of the body of the victim, adding further that a larger conspiracy cannot be ruled out. Meanwhile, after the court's permission, CBI is all set to conduct a polygraph test of the accused. West Bengal governor has also sought time to meet with Union Home Minister Amit Shah and has now reached the national capital. The state government, on the other hand, has formed an SIT to probe the financial irregularities of RG Kar College and Hospital.
जो क्रिमिनेशन घाट का बारे में बोलता है, श्मशान घाट के बारे में, उधर 3 बॉडी पड़ा हुआ था, लेकिन उसका पहले ही हमारा लड़की का বডি জ্বালা দিয়া গিয়া।
একজন ধরা পড়েছে, ওকে তো আমি মনেই করছি না, ও ভেতরের লোক না থাকলে বাইরের ও কি করে জানলো আমার মেয়ে ওখানে আছে।
पुलिस बोला था कि अभी जब बॉडी आएगा तो रुकने के लिए बोलेगा। हम बोले तो ठीक है, ताकि हम लोग लोकल लड़की भी थे, डॉक्टर भी थे, ऐसा दुर्घटना हुआ था, जब पोस्टमार्टम हुआ था, डिकम्पोज होने का चांस था, इसीलिए बोला था जल्दी हो सकते थे।
संजय ठीक नहीं था, अब उसको आप लोग फांसी में चढ़ाइए चाहे जो चढ़ाइए।
आपको लगता है ये जो जघन्य अपराध हुआ है संजय कर सकता है ऐसा?
अब उसमें देखिए, ये अपराध में इसमें हम नहीं बोलेगा। अब जहाँ वो अकेला लड़का उसको मार खत्म कर नहीं सकेगा, अकेला तो उसका कैपेसिटी नहीं होगा। हम तो बोलेंगे देखिए, गलत मेरा संग में था, गलत किया है और गलत सजा मिलना चाहिए। 1000 लड़का सही भी रहने से क्या हुआ?
मतलब आप मानती है कि संजय ऐसा कुछ कर सकता है?
अब वैसा हो तो गलत किया है तो उसको तो गलत मान नहीं होगा।
Taking this across to my colleagues Ananya, Arunima and Kumalika, who are joining us live on the broadcast early this morning. Ananya, I'm coming to you first on the Supreme Court angle, considering the Apex Court is all set to take suo motu cognizance of this entire case that's come out of West Bengal. What is expected out of the court?
Well, it's a very, very significant day as Chief Justice of India, topic of Shiva Chakri, that bench. Well, in terms of this particular matter, members of the Supreme Court to substance of the pursuit to applications were addressed to, in fact, the Chief Justice of India, saying that, this is something that is very, very unfortunate that has happened in fact, West Bengal, and that the Supreme Court needs to take care of it. Remember, so the Calcutta High Court is already dealing with this matter. It has transferred the case from, in fact, the local police to, in fact, the Central Bureau of Investigation, noting that the public has lost confidence in the Kolkata police, and the investigation that was conducted by the Kolkata police was really, really sketchy and, in fact, slow, and that's exactly